Hi, my name's Emily Bullinger. It will soon be Emily Christopherson. I just have to wait till my husband gets done with AIT. And then when he's done, then we'll go through the paperwork. I want to talk about Asperger's syndrome. I'm a sufferer of it. I don't really suffer from it anymore now that I know exactly what it is, and now that I know exactly what every human facial feature, every expression is. Now I don't have any trouble. Now I'm so good at it that I can immediately detect the slightest slightest lie, shall we say, with micro expressions and things like that. The reason why I'm doing this in particular is because my mother also suffers from Asperger's syndrome, and she had a bad childhood, much like the type of childhood that I got from her, but this is due to the fact that she had really bad parents, and this you can verify by getting into contact with her sister, Diana Erlinson. She will definitely tell you that my mother had wretched parents that did very terrible things. My aunt actually told me that she felt bad for me that my mother was my mother, which I thought that was really telling. My mother is also convinced that there's absolutely nothing wrong with her parents, even though when I was a child I specifically asked my grandfather why my uncle David and my aunt Diane I never went to visit him and never called him, and he told me himself that it was all his fault. He never told me why. He just said it was all his fault. My daughter is displaying symptoms of psychopathy right now. She came home from summer with her father, and she was able to spend a lot of time with Grandma, and she came home and she was nothing but angry, and she was angry about everything all the time, and she was getting wrinkles on her forehead in anger, which is not at all normal for an 8-year-old. And of course I had to get to the bottom of it, and of course I already knew who was to blame, because there's only been one person that's ever been bad to her, and that was my mother. My mother hates me. My mother considers me a replica of herself, and my mother doesn't think highly of herself, so she projects that onto me, and she did everything in her power to destroy me as a child, and I was crippled with depression for 10 years of my childhood, starting from age 8. When I was 8, I started looking into psychology because I didn't understand the world around me. I didn't understand why people behaved the way they did. And I've been studying it extensively for the last 22 years, practically. So I do know a lot about psychology. I'm an amateur psychologist, most definitely. Nobody can pay me for the sort of things that I know, but I almost think that that's better, because that means that I have to give it away for free, and I would rather give this sort of information away for free. I had no idea that I had Asperger's syndrome. I'd never even heard of it, and I didn't know anything about it, really. All I knew is that it was a form of autism, and I'd met an autistic child when I was a kid, related to me. He very much seemed like he understood everything that his parents said, but he also seemed like he hated them, and he would do anything to upset them. I thought he was a wretched child. I didn't understand, and I was scared of that. Like, I didn't get it. I do get it now. An autistic person is a person that doesn't understand any facial expression, so when they're a kid, a baby, they're not recognizing love that their mother's giving them, and it starts to make them mentally ill. Mental illness is caused by 4 main factors. I really hope that there are psychologists that will back me up on this. Malnutrition is a key part of mental illness. So if you're not eating enough vegetables and fruits, specifically, then you're prone to becoming mentally ill. Mental stimulation, many different forms. stimulation, mental stimulation. That's funny. I love that. I'll keep that. Stimulation, mental stimulation is something that you need. You need all very, different forms. You need to read, you need to write, you need to watch all kinds of educational programming. I mean, you don't stop watching the stuff that's entertaining, but you have to watch more of the good stuff too. Also, you have to drink an adequate amount of water, and you need social interaction, healthy social interaction. Otherwise, you're doomed to be mentally ill. One thing that I've noticed since I've been able to pinpoint facial expression so well is that everywhere I turn, everywhere I go, I notice mental illness in the faces of everyone I see. And my mom's definitely mentally ill. She's depressed, and she's also a psychopath. She is a psychopath. She's not a psychopath by brute force like men usually are. She is the type that uses manipulation tactics, and she's been using her entire family for years to get her whatever she wanted. The reason why I'm coming out and I'm saying all this is because I really think it's time for her to get some help. I don't like what she did to my daughter. My little girl should not be angry at age 8 when her parents didn't do anything to her. She's not been abused sexually. She's not been beaten. She hasn't gone through any of that. It's all been psychological, and it was all due to my mother. And that's why I'm mad. I'm very, very mad at her. How dare she do that to my kid? In my opinion, if you mess with my children, then you mess with me. And she is the last person that should piss me off, because she was the one that was torturing me my whole life. My whole life. I'm going to come out. I'm going to tell everything from the beginning until the end. I want my mother to get help. I want her to go to a psychologist. I want her to take a facial recognition test. But I want to get a little more into Asperger's first. The very nature of Asperger's is this. A lot of facial expressions look virtually identical, except for a few slight differences. For example, you got surprise, and then, that's surprise. But then you also have repulsion. They're very similar. They're very similar. These are two that I got confused. And I was able to pinpoint exactly all of the areas in life where I'd got them wrong once I knew what I did wrong, because I have such an extensive memory. My memory is very profound. It's not like the Unforgettable chick, and it's not even quite like the Powder guy, but it's pretty fucking good. And I was able to look back on all of these different points in life and realize, holy shit, all these different times when I was surprising people, I thought that they were repulsed by me. I thought that I was an ugly person and a freak. I thought that everybody hated me for no reason. I never thought that I did anything wrong. I was very, very, very arrogant. I will say that I'm an arrogant person. It comes along from having all the right answers all the time, people constantly telling you that you're doing it right. And when you're the kid in the class that raises your hand all the time and you practically always get it right. I mean, I want you to think of like Ben Stein's Money, if you remember that show. Every time Ben got an answer wrong, he was like, that's exactly how it was for me. I didn't let any of the kids have a chance to speak, and when I would piss them off, I would boast. And if I didn't win, then I had a fit. I mean, I basically behaved the exact opposite of everything, for any reason. That's because I kept transposing positives for negatives. And because I could not recognize that this was my problem. This is impossible to detect on your own. And when you're an arrogant person, you can't be told that you're wrong. You have to be proven. This is my mother's problem. She does not think that the way that she treated me throughout my life was, she didn't think that it was a problem. She didn't think that it was a bad thing to shower two of her children with everything they ever wanted and then deny everything the other child wanted practically all the time. Anytime my mother got me a gift that I actually enjoyed, and asked for, I was always dumbfounded. Like, wow, you actually finally did it. I can't believe it. She does the same thing to my daughter. I'm going to have my daughter do one of these videos too. I want her to tell her story. I want her to tell exactly what she told me. It was very disturbing, and it was exactly what my mom used to do to me. I want to go a little bit further into Asperger's, though. I want to tell everyone that the reason why Cracks.com had described it as so easily diagnosed is that it is my contention, my hypothesis, that practically everybody suffers from it that's white or Middle Eastern or of Oriental descent or even Latino. Practically everybody in the world suffers in a degree. They suffer from Asperger's to a degree, except for the African American community. Africans have been evolving longer than the rest of us. Every single other denomination of human stems from Africans. So Africans are the ones that can read facial expression exactly from birth. This is why black people don't have a problem interacting with everyone. They can tell if you're thinking poorly of them just upon sight. They can practically tell what your thoughts are just due to your mannerisms. And this is why so many black people seem not to like you if you're white, because if you're white and you grew up middle class or rich, your immediate reaction is to think something poorly of them, and they can see it right in your face. I never understood why people disliked black people. Every time I've always, anytime I befriended a black person, it always felt like they completely understood everything that I was going through. And every time I've ever spoken with a black person about something intellectual, it's always seemed like they were willing to think about it. In my opinion, that says to me that people of African descent are better than the rest of us, to a degree, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that anyone in the world is not a treasure. I'm not saying that any bit of life is bad. I'm saying that because of Asperger syndrome, jealousy has forced the world to ruin the black community, the entire black community. It's not just the black community in the United States. Of course, everybody knows that Africa is completely dying. It's completely dying, either dying of starvation or people have HIV and they don't know what to do about it. There's nothing they can do about it because they're being so terribly controlled. I want anyone that's watching this to please understand that I'm not a person that's just making up lies about my mother. I don't have a history of this. If you look back on my psychiatric history, I know that can't be found by you, but I'll let you know right away. No, I'm not a liar. I don't do that. I'm an advocate for the truth. I'm an advocate for reason. I only think in terms of analytics because I lack the ability to have faith. I can't take somebody's word for it. I can't do that. I always have to have proof. So I wouldn't come out and say something like this, especially due to the fact that people are going to call me crazy left and right. But I would ask that people look into the condition Asperger's. It's a form of autism, and it's something that's easily overcome. All you have to do is know what the proper facial expressions are, and then you can completely correct your behavior, and you do it almost instantly. So, I mean, once you know what's wrong with you, once you find that out, that final piece that stops you from being confused, once you know why other people around you are behaving the way they are, it makes it easier to get around. It makes it easier to walk into any situation. You can walk into a club and not have any worry. You can go to a party and not have to be scared. You don't have to fear being around other people. This is what I want Asperger's patients to understand. And it's not just Asperger's patients that have been identified that feel this way. Everybody feels this way. Everybody feels like they can't get along. Everybody feels like everyone else is crazy. Everybody feels like everyone else is stupid. Everybody feels like they're really arrogant. Everybody knows that they're always right. These are all signs of Asperger's, folks. You're not completely arrogant if you can clearly see your poor behaviors. You're not arrogant about that at all. And people that don't have Asperger's don't develop terrible habits like lying about people in order to get people to see your way. And that's definitely something that my mother does all the time. If you ask my mother, she is the victim of every single story she ever tells. She doesn't do anything wrong. None of her behaviors are bad. I want you to think about all of those women on Bridezillas, all of those women that are me. These are all women that have Asperger's, or they were just spoiled when they were kids. And as far as, black people in this country that behave that way, well, we all know that they're watered down by white due to the fact that slave owners used to rape their slaves. And of course, with interracial connections now, of course, that's watered down because people are just allowed and accepted to have sex with each other. So that's how you can get partially black people with this condition too. I'm convinced my whole family has it because my whole family acts just terribly. You don't understand any of their behaviors. My father, for example, grew up thinking that he was an ugly man when every single woman that ever laid eyes on him thought he was completely gorgeous. As I mentioned, my mother behaves the wrong way in every situation. She has trouble keeping jobs because she can't get along with others. Completely full of herself. She thinks that she deserves everything. She thinks that she's entitled to everything. So even though she's sitting on the couch not working, she thinks that my father, who's not even married to her anymore, must work and work and work in order to support her laying around. And she's always been like this. And she didn't give a damn when her kids were getting up early in the morning before school in order to give her money. And she didn't mind stealing money from her children. And when her father died, she was happy about it because then she had more inheritance to spend. And she went on a terrible spending spree, and she was happy as a clam, and I know it because she took me with. When my grandfather was on his deathbed, he went a little senile, and he accused her of trying to steal from him. And she actually said to me, "Why won't he just die?" But she screamed it in frustration. Like I say, I'm going to come out with more of these videos. I'm going to do it for as long as it takes for her to get help. What she needs right now is not people to tell her she's a monster. What she needs is people to tell her that they understand why she was doing it. That it's okay. People aren't upset with her. I also want her to know that the only way people will stay upset with her, like me, is if she doesn't get help. She will never see my children again, especially Celeste, if she doesn't get better. I perceive her as a danger to my daughter and myself. She will not stop her lies. She needs a therapist. She needs to eat well. And she needs real friends that she doesn't have to lie to. She needs friends that like her for her and not for her lies that she tells to try and paint the picture of herself as being good. She needs to be honest with herself about who she is. She'll never get better if she doesn't. And the reason why I'm coming out now is because I think most psychologists will tell you that if you don't treat your mental illness when you know you have it, then it will only get worse. And definitely the fact that she's ostracized herself from her family and my father's family, and both of her daughters have shut her out. She's got a stepson that flew on the other side of the world She destroys every child she touches. I fully believe that she might try to commit suicide, and I don't want that. Even though my mother tortured me when I was a child, even though she got my brother and sister to gang up on me and hate me as well, you can't stop loving your mother. I don't have any reason to do this other than the fact that I want her to get help. And I want my brother to get help. My brother has the same problem. My brother and I have the exact same IQ. My brother is a very highly intelligent man, and he's very analytical, and he and I think on point on everything. But for whatever reason, he can't accept that he might have this problem too. And he called me crazy, and he accused me of being on illicit drugs. And he has a problem with being called an arrogant prick. Yeah, brother, guess what? That's exactly the kind of thing that an arrogant prick would say. Sorry. And of course I have many other delightful examples how my brother is an arrogant prick. But I'm not getting into that right now. My point is, I want my mother to get help. If anybody harasses her, her name's Karen Bullinger. You can find her on Facebook. Don't harass her in a bad way. Harass her in a loving way. Say it's okay. It's okay to have Asperger's. You're not a bad person for it. You do bad things because you didn't understand. All you have to do is take a facial recognition test and then just go to therapy. It's really easy. If you can't afford a real psychologist, then just go to some other type of counselor. They have all kinds of free counseling all over the place. Gosh, she could even go to Alcoholics Anonymous if she wanted to. She used to drink all the time. So she could just say that she's been sober for very, very, very many years or whatever. At that point, it doesn't matter. The point is she needs to understand why she behaved the way she behaved. It's the only way she can ever correct herself, and that's the only way she can ever really be happy. If you manipulate your family to do your bidding, you know, if you hold money over their head like it's a carrot, you do what I say, otherwise I'll cut you off. You're not a happy person. That's not how you show love to your children. You show love to your children by holding them and cuddling them, telling them they're special, telling them that you're proud of them, giving them freedom to choose what kind of lives they want to live, you know, letting them express themselves in whichever way they want. You don't give them a whole bunch of crap. You don't allow them to eat whatever they want when it's crap and it can degrade their bodies. This is not what good parents do. Good parents learn how to raise children the right way by reading books. They learn what to feed their children, again, by reading books. And they learn how to be an adult by looking into psychology, if indeed they are confused about the world around them. So my mother has to stop thinking of me as somewhat of an enemy, and she really needs to think of me as somewhat of a friend, seeing as I am a bit of an expert in this area, even if I have no credentials.